Welcome to another episode of Houston Art Tribe. I'm Kay Sarver, and I'm here today with P.M.Neist. I'm very, very excited to be here, honestly. I so fell in love with your artwork. I think probably most recently as you were posting some things on social media, and just charmed by them. But I know we kind of go back a distance.
We do go back a long time.
Yes, and I think at first, it was you were reading a poem or a short story.
Yeah, I've always been a creative person, so it's been a long journey for me. But I started with writing.
Yes, I was impressed back then, and then I think someone in the group said, "Oh, she's a visual artist too," and I was like, "Oh, one of those." Just talented all the way around. But and then eventually, I think I was in a mutual friend's home, and she had one of your pieces on the wall, and I was like, who is P.M.Neist? And I wanted to ask you, maybe just go back a little bit first.
Yes.
Because I think one of the first things I saw of yours was a children's book that you had done.
Yes, I did. So I like, it's been a process for me to find what I like. And I think that's the case for every artist. When people go to art school, the idea is you try a lot of different things and then eventually settle on something. So my first project was a children's book, and it was an irreverent little book, pen and ink, and I thought, like a lot of people for a while, oh, maybe I'll do children's book.
Yeah.
And my children's book was so irreverent that there was not going to be a market for that. So it's called Barely Behaving Daughters.
It's kind of the thing I loved about it.
I know, right? And it's like these little characters, right?
Yeah.
Who are little girls, and they do terrible things. And I sent my book to a bunch of reviewers, and one of them came back and said, "This is not appropriate for children. There's animal cruelty." I'm like, I can swear, like no animal was hurt in the making of this book. But
it's a sweet book.
It's a fun little book. It was good because for me it was my first project, a really sustaining, a long project from start to finish.
Yeah.
It was very clear for me it was a portfolio piece, right? It was not going to make a whole lot of money or anything like that, but it was fun to make.
Yeah.
And to make lots of errors doing it. That was really interesting too. So.
Well, it wasn't evident you made errors, I can tell you. And I just flipped through the first few pages because I think it only lets you see that, but I want that book.
I have a few copies.
and you even set it up so that it was learning letters of the alphabet.
Right, it's alliteration.
Lovely. Yeah. I mean, so I think it's charming. That sort of leads me to, just in general, first I want to say you're such a nice multimedia artist. I mean, I've seen a number of your pieces that included either cloth or collage or paper with embroidery, and it's unique and beautifully done, and it makes me smile when I see them. I don't know who these characters are, but I feel like you're telling a story.
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking about that recently, like what is it about me? And I am right now in the process of I've taken I'm in what I call a creative sabbatical.
Yeah.
Where I've some people sail around the world, and for me, I want to spend time here. For the next year, I'm making things.
Yes.
So I've decided to do that, and at the root of it, I thought, well, what is this about for me? And looking back, I think I'm a product of where I come from. I'm originally from France.
Yes.
I'm from a blue-collar neighborhood. People like me did not go to art school, right? People like me were supposed to go to work and do certain things, but there's always been like a rebellion in me. An idea that I was going to look at things in a different way. And also there was always a maker in me. I think because I grew up not having a whole lot of money. So I made my own clothes.
Yes.
I made a lot of things. So I learned to do things, but I also did it with this idea that I was going to use new material. You know, it was the 80s. In my neighborhood, the punk era had arrived, you know, because we were like so far away from Paris or London, you know. Okay. It took 10 years for things to arrive where we were. But it was this excitement, you know, of like, oh, we dressed in black, we put our hair up, you know, we dyed ourselves in blue, you know, we put our hair up with soap, we made clothes out of material that had not existed before. You know, plastic and vinyl, and we made things out of mattress sticking and stuff like that. And so there was that. There was a new role for young women too that our mothers and grandmothers didn't. And I think everything kind of bubbled up inside me.
That's so exciting because, you know, to me that just screams artist. I mean, you feel like you're sort of an outsider, or you shouldn't be, but you can't stop yourself from making something. You can't stop, and a need. You had a need to make clothes, or, you know, so you really just got into doing that. I love that.
I think so too. And there's this idea of the outsider too, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood in France. My mom, you know, does everything she can to send me to one of the best universities, but there I'm an outsider. So I immigrate to the United States. And I'm permanently an outsider, right? Because I've been in the country some 30 years. People say, oh, you're French. But in France, they say, oh, you're American. You speak with this American accent. So I am nowhere, right?
Oh, no.
I don't have, it's funny, this is called the Archetype. I'm like, is this my tribe? Because I have no idea, right? Nobody really claims me.
No, understand,
And that also, I think, informs what I do, right? I just do, I'm like, okay, well, if nobody claims you, I can do whatever I want.
That's kind of freeing.
It is freeing.
You know, I think some of us lose touch with that. It's not that you have to be or feel like an outsider, but sometimes that gives you license, like you, to just, you know, really tap into something completely different, because you're not worried. You're not trying to satisfy, you know, anyone.
Well, I think it gets even better, right? Because I'm taking this year off. So I've saved every penny so I can take literally a year off and do what I want. And then now people look at me and they said, how is retirement? And I'm like, what? You know? Because I'm an older woman. I'm in my 50s. And so there is absolutely like zero expectation that I'm going to succeed at anything. You know, I'm like, I'm supposed to be retiring. Some people said I should take a cruise to Alaska. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I want to make stuff. But I'm like, the outsider, I'm not expected to succeed at anything. And I'm like, great, then I can really make whatever I want.
Yes. Oh, good.
I'm making whatever I want.
You are, and I'm really glad you are. No, I mean, and there's, you know, it makes me think of something. I guess what I started seeing, it was probably on Facebook, it might have been, or even Instagram also, maybe that's where. But it was these amazing little pieces you were doing, like little stories. And those were, the combination of the embroidery and the
storytelling.
Cloth, and you were giving them away. And you have no idea, I kept stopping myself. I was not going to say, I want that, because it didn't seem right, I was like, no, you can't just give that away,
So,
but tell
that was interesting. That was this radical experiment. I'm thinking, all right, let's make art.
Okay.
And I had a glass of wine that night, and I'm like, oh, this great idea shows up, that I'm going to make a piece of art, one a week. And it was called Project 105 for 105 weeks in a row.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to give away the art.
Okay.
So it's a funny story because I had come up with this great idea. So next thing, I put this website together and I contact two women. I explained my idea. Not only was I going to make a piece of art, every piece of art was going to be an illustration to a short story that I was going to publish. Oh, and the idea was, we put so much online. What if I do something that's actually very personal, that I spend time making this handmade piece of art, and I'm going to give this to one person. right? Only one person.
Yes.
But then I'm going to publish a story that everybody can see. So it's this play on the public versus the private.
Yeah. Nice idea, actually.
The idea of what we do on social media, the stories that we tell. So I emailed 2 women and I said, look, I'm starting this project. I don't know how to get started. I would like the 2 of you to be the first recipient of this piece of art.
Oh, wow.
I get no response. He takes 10 days for the first person to like say, oh, okay, yeah, maybe.
Oh my goodness!
So I made this piece of art, I sent it out, and then within about 3 or 4 weeks, I realized that that's a difficult thing, because to make a piece of art for someone who has no idea what you're making.
Yeah.
So I reverted the process a little bit and said, I'm going to make this piece of art, and then I'm going to send an email to this list of people and advertise on social media and say, okay, this is like up for adoption this week, and then email me if you want it.
Oh, okay.
And then it slowly built up,
Yeah.
so that there became like, there was an audience, right?
Yeah.
But then I had this problem after, it was like about week 30, where people would ask for the art, but only have one piece to give away every week, right?
Oh my gosh.
So I have to say no to 29 people because 30 had asked.
Yeah. That's what I envisioned. I envisioned I'd be among many.
I know. It was really hard to say no over and over.
Yeah. So you...
And then, and then you have the thing like, well, you sent something? I expected a thank you, but sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I just sent something.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes I heard a thank you, but then I'm like, what are they thanking me for? I mean, I don't know. So I ran out of gas, I think at week, I kept it up for like a little over a year.
Wow.
54. And then I'm like, okay, this is it.
Yeah. I'm amazed that's an ambitious project, and I can see why when you said for the sake of making art, we do get caught up sometimes in what is this really for, and if you don't attach anything like to it, I get that.
So it kind of like micro essays. I'm really interested in taking this year to explore the creative process, to explore the idea of failure, and how failure is so very important.
Wow.
In the creative process, that's the essential thing, is to fail.
Yeah.
It's actually not to succeed, it's
Yeah.
to fail,
There you
because
go.
that's where all this stuff happens, right?
Yes.
And how do we get that?
Yeah.
How do we acknowledge how important it is?
Yes.
And also, how do we make that like the core of the practice?
That's so profound.
So
That is so
I want to, this year for me is about creating, but creating in the sense of the failure, the accumulation of stuff I'm not using. It's funny, I started the calendar year in February with a project where I embroidered a really long text, right? And so I embroidered the entire text. It's like 6 feet long.
Wow.
And then I bring it to a group that provides feedback, and they're like, oh, you've aligned it right or left, you've aligned it left, and it really doesn't look good. And you know what? I'm like, they're absolutely right. I just spent 2.5 months doing something and missing the obvious, right? So what an interesting mistake that is, and why did that happen, right? And so, it's over there, it's rolled up, 6 feet of embroidery, which is a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, yeah.
And so, number one, I can laugh about it now.
Yes.
So what happens when we make a mistake like that, right? Well, what happened to me is I had to literally roll it up and let it sit for a while.
Sure,
because after so much an effort, what do you do?
Yeah.
But I want to write about those things,
Yes. Yeah, no. Because that's just part of the process, right?
Right.
And that's the kind of thing we all need to hear is, because a lot of us will just fold up and drop it, drop it for good.
Right.
Instead of, maybe embracing that, okay, I think, I mean, I've seen this happen, and I know it's happened to me before too, where you have something that succeeds, whatever that means, and you keep doing it because you're afraid to try something different or new because of failure, because of rejection, whatever.
And I think it's also a feminist issue. I think that as women, we're particularly groomed and asked to have this idea of perfection.
Yes.
You know, I'm very interested in embroidery, but for a lot of women, the practice of embroidery is needlepoint, you know, based on a design that somebody else gives you, which is kind of like coloring, and it's all meant to be very perfect, you know, to have this idea of something absolutely beautiful and perfect, but don't go too much outside the line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what happens when you're not that? You know, what happens if you want something different?
Yeah.
What happens if you fail? What happens to your unfinished projects?
Yeah.
So right now I've accumulated a bunch of unfinished projects from other women, and I'm thinking, how could this be used and integrated into another kind of work?
I love that. I love that. And you're right about it being a feminist issue, because even when you think of embroidery, I mean, we have this fixed idea in our heads of where, you know, some old ladies did that.
Yes.
Wait, what? That's no.
I know.
No.
I tell people I'm taking a year off to embroider, and the first thing I hear, Snickers. You know, it's like, you know, really?
Yeah.
You're making tea towels. And because that's this idea, right?
Yes.
It's, you know, embroidery, quilting fibers, these are things that are cute for the home. They're not meant usually to be instruments of creativity or instruments of expression.
Yes.
Particularly a bold expression.
Yeah. And this is one of the reasons I do this, and sharing artists and how they work, and because I think that most people watching this are artists, probably.
Right.
But you get something from this. You get that it's okay to fail. It doesn't stop. It shouldn't be the end of it. It's something you can learn from. And honestly, I don't see where failure is at all. Probably if I looked at that 6-foot thing.
I call it the cemetery. You know.
I've got that myself.
A really big cemetery out there with all kinds of things, you know, or the project, you know, like I start something and then I'm like, it's not going to go anywhere.
And you may use it someday again.
That's
a cool thing too. Just hope you have enough space to
make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen.
I use digital media to create some of the patterns.
Yes.
And I think that's very useful. I use photography as a form of collage in my work.
Yes.
And so I think digital media is great. You know, you can do so much thing now with digital printing too.
Yes, true.
So I can create my own patterns and get that. And I'm interested in also integrating some handmade marks into the final product.
I do love that you combine medias. So this recent project then, or
these recent projects,
yes. You start out with drawings usually.
I start out with drawings like these, and I get paint and I draw over and over and over until I'm happy with something. I'm not happy with something. I think the ones that I'm not happy with are as interesting as the ones that I am.
Yeah.
And then after I'm done with that, I just engage in the process of self-critique. And you can see on some of my stuff, there are notes like, okay, this is a strong design, this might not be. Why is that? Am I interested in this shape? And what happens with that?
Yeah.
And so, I tend to start on paper, and then I like right now for about a year I've been doing a lot of this applique. I like using, this is wool suiting. So I tend to use only recycled material right now.
Oh, great.
So there's like my favorite thrift shops, like in well-behaved neighborhoods where people have suits made for them. Yeah. So I get like the wool suiting, so I use wool suiting. And I like, you know, all these shapes were cut out. They are reused in another design. So I really like the idea of using the leftover fabric elsewhere.
Yeah, it feels natural to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of going out and getting, you know, new material. Although imagine you do that too, but
I do that too. Not, I mean, as much as I can, I don't. But sometimes there's a specific color or something I'm really into. The thing with using recycled material is they behave inappropriately. So yes, they do all kinds of terrible things. So it's kind of fun to like
work around.
Sometimes you tame the material, and sometimes it tames you. You know.
I love that. I know. I've always had a thing for fabric anyway, and worked with it a lot. And like you, I had to make my own clothes for a while. So I can really relate to that.
I know.
And
I think right now this is an interesting time, right? I'm seeing a revival of the crafts.
Yes.
And so you have the generation of our children, you know, people who are in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe, you know, more, who are wanting or craving the crafts.
Yes.
And so that's interesting, but if you look at it, I think our generation, or my generation, women coming of age in the 80s, we were kind of the last ones who were taught I was taught in the second grade how to embroider.
Yes, yes.
By women who'd been born in the 19th century.
Yes,
yes. And so there was, like in the 80s, I think there was a pivotal moment there where the knowledge of, it was not even called craft, it was called essential skills that you need to have.
Yes, yes. Home economics.
Home economics, you needed to sew, knit, whatever it is. But in the 80s, there was also that rebellion of, okay, great, like people of my mother's generation made clothes that fit, made clothes that were tailored. My generation did not.
Yes.
We didn't hem. We used material that was not supposed to be used. There was a great deal of creativity. And then everything was lost because then it was a lot cheaper to buy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And it still is, right?
Yes.
But then now people who were born when you only buy stuff, suddenly they want things that are handmade.
Yeah.
But also there's not necessarily, I think, that knowledge of the handmade. Like even the knowledge of receiving something handmade. It's so very rare.
It is, you're right.
Discrepancy is when you make an embroidery piece. I just made a jacket, right? And so I take a jacket and I completely embroidered it. And somebody said, oh, you should sell this for like $100. And I'm like, well, this took me actually 45 hours to make, you know. So $100 is very little per hour. But there's this complete disconnect we have with the handmade object.
There is.
Or with the made object. We do not know how much it cost.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it's just like, I forget what, you know, because I played with sculpture a bit too. And I made some wire forms and it takes endless hours, you know, to do that. And it would never, I mean, I remember someone saying who I thought, you know, I really admired their artistic experience, and you know, you will never make back the money or the time you put into it. And I thought, isn't that sad? But it's true. You know, you never will. It's
or maybe
unless you're just, you know.
Or maybe what is sad is that we have it so entrenched now that we need to put a value on everything.
Yes,
too,
yes.
right?
Oh,
and
yes,
so,
yes.
Which is why people cringed when I was giving art away, right?
True.
Because how wrong of you to do this?
I mean, I kept feeling, yes, it made me feel like.
Because we completely lost the experience of somebody is going to do something for me just because I exist.
Yeah.
Just because I'm good enough to receive something.
That's so true, though. That is true.
That experience is lost.
Yeah.
Giving. Yeah, the giving, but also the receiving.
And the receiving.
And the receiving of something that was made just for you.
Yeah.
You know, something that's completely unique.
Yes.
Is not a common experience now. Well, it used to be the norm hundreds of years, not even hundreds of years ago. 30 years ago, it was the norm, or 40.
You really bring up a good point, because I wondered why I was so uncomfortable with the idea of me even asking for it.
Well, when I make an object, I want to tell the person, all right, you know, somebody asked me to make a purse. I'm going to make a purse. I'm going to write a little story about how that purse came to be.
Yeah.
You know, where did the fabric come from? How did it originate? What happened in between? I'm going to put a little hidden pocket in your purse, so you will be the only one who knows where it is.
Oh my God!
Wouldn't that be interesting,
yes,
right? That you deserve that kind of attention.
Yes.
And what would that mean to you? You know?
Yes.
And yes, I mean, I need to eat, right? Eventually I need a few resources to make it in life.
Yeah.
But, you know, what will you remember? You know?
No, that's so true. That's what has the impact, is just that act and seeing that and working on it.
Right.
I love that. I love that you're bringing this up, because that whole question of value anyway, and it's like you said, you need to make a living, but few of us do as artists, and not that you do it for that reason. It's conflicting.
Yes.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. It can ruin the creative process to think about it too much. But I know some people who do. It's like their whole drive is, I have to make this money, and I don't blame them.
No, I can respect that too.
I absolutely can. Now I saw you were part of, I think it was called Artist Inc.
Artist Inc., yes.
Through,
so that's a program that's funded by the Mid-America Arts Alliance.
Okay.
And then Fresh Arts here sponsored it, and so I was part of that cohort last year.
Yeah.
They picked 25 artists to be shepherded to the business of art. So that was fun. And it was fun to create relationships, to find fellow artists, and to have a class that I can connect with.
That's huge.
So I've made and I know you've interviewed several people.
Yeah, I think Anthony
Pabiano.
Yeah.
He's great.
He is great.
Hi, Anthony.
Yeah, I love him. I think, it's so valuable, even though, like you say, it's wonderful too to have this time alone and to work on things, but having that support of the art community is really big, I think.
It was nice to be picked too. Somebody
said,
"Oh, you deserve to be in the program." I was like, "Thank you, Fresh Arts," because that was a big moment for me. I know. I was like, "Oh, really?" But I think that happens for a lot of us, right? It's like I don't have an MFA. I have a business degree. And there's always that sense that the art police is just around the corner. They're about to barge in here and just cart me away.
You need to write
your fraud, I'm like, I'm so sorry.
It's so true.
But it's true. That. Yes. And so when you're picked for something, if it's an exhibit, if it's a program, it just feels like, thank you. Gosh. I deserve to be here.
A little validation that maybe someone appreciates. Okay. Yeah. No, I know. That's great. The art police. They're
ruthless. I know.
In here.
You're probably watching this like that. The story about Elizabeth is she's older. She cannot have children. And then suddenly her husband, who is a priest, goes to the temple and he's told his wife is going to conceive. And he cannot believe that. So he is actually made mute, rendered mute, for the duration of the pregnancy.
Wow.
And then she has a child and so on. St. John the Baptist. So, but I'm thinking, okay, so if you look at those stories, at the time, the only creation for women was actual creation of a child. But here's the older woman who is going to create and this guy doesn't believe could happen. And I'm like, that's us, the creative.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
We're gonna create, but there's no one in there believing that this is actually gonna happen, right? And so I've got my little guy there, you know, and he's like, the Holy Spirit is going into his mouth, and he says, this is not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so I know he's in progress, but I have these 4 panels, you know, basically telling this story, you know, this story of your creativity. You know it's happening in you. You know you're this older woman.
Yeah.
But the world out there is not quite believing it until you finally deliver in the world.
Oh, that's great.
So that's the plan, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so I was like, not.
You know, I think I'm very interested in. And that was years ago. I remember I was in my 30s. I was in the pool, and this family friend comes and she's swimming, and I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Well, you know, I just turned 60, and I've turned completely invisible. And just watch out, it will happen to you." And I know that stayed with me, you know, that warning. And I think other women warn us. So let's back up a little bit. Let's look at the work that women have done, particularly with fiber, because for centuries there has been like the safe thing, right?
Yeah.
So there are so many stories though in those fibers.
Yeah.
I acquired a quilt. I went to Tennessee and there was literally like a quilt peddler there. So I got this quilt. It's from Kazakhstan. I don't know how it made its way to Tennessee.
Wow.
Okay, so interesting. There's a quilt. And then you look at it. The quilt is embroidered. And then when you start looking very closely, right, you notice that there are variations in color. And you're like, wait a minute. Like this particular piece used to be pink. But no, there's a patch that's like white. Like, did you run out of thread?
Oh.
Did something happen?
It's a story.
Did you send your husband for like more thread and you're like, I need pink, he came back with white? Was there war? What happened to this, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh.
Or I acquired another piece, there's just this little tablecloth, and it's, when you look very closely, it's little children. And then you realize it's the story of the king and I.
Oh, wow.
And you've got these little children dancing, and you've got this lady and then the king of Siam, and they're dancing on this tablecloth. And you're thinking, now that's interesting. Did you like the movie so much?
Wow, you do find good.
Why did you do this, right?
Yeah.
But I find it because I look.
Yeah, you look for it.
But most people don't.
No.
You're like, oh, this is grandma's tablecloth. You know, let's check it.
Yeah, yeah.
But where are the holes? You know, where was something worn out? Where was it repaired? How was it repaired? And so when we look very closely at all of these fibers and how they're made, we can tell a little bit of the story, because everything that's handmade has the hand of the maker.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know, there's variation in the rhythm of the stitch. There's variation in the repairs that are made, in the colors that are used.
Yes. And there's an energy there.
There's an energy.
Yeah, there totally is.
And if we pay attention, it's almost like a meditation. Wow. But so many of these things are just discarded.
Yeah. Oh no, it's true. Just discarded. Old stuff that somebody made in the family.
Completely ignored.
We don't even know who.
I know.
Or they give it away. It's just a functional thing, supposedly.
It's a functional thing.
Yeah.
And what
Wow.
happened, you know?
Yeah.
And what was she thinking about?
So many stories there.
Right.
You could, and because I don't mean to suggest that you should go in all these different directions, but you are such a good writer. And I just telling the stories, you're telling them this way.
Right, how do we tell the story?
How do you tell the story? Yeah.
But there are so very interesting stories to be found in fiber. And that is like something that's not told. I think because number one, it's women's stories, so they typically are not told. True. And they're not even examined, or the questions are not being asked.
It's so true. Wow. I love that you.
Anyway, so I'm bubbly, right? I have
Yes,
so many
no,
things that
I'm
interest
excited
me.
that you are because it's great work, and I'm just happy to share it here because I don't know where that goes. I just know that it amazes me to find people like you that do what you do, and
Thank you.
it sound trite, but it's inspiring. It gives me incentive to continue to see things differently as well.
I
you
know. Thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for letting me talk about what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is
Thanks
fun.
for having me come.
You're
The
welcome.
studio is wonderful, by the way. She just had some work done on it, and it's just full of light, and
a great place.
love the space. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I could see getting lost up here for a while.
Yeah,
You
I
probably do.
I don't have anywhere to go.
Well, thank you so
You're welcome.
much. And I
It was
guess
a pleasure.
we will be saying goodbye to the viewers, and thanks for
Bye.
watching
Thanks for
as
sharing.
always. And please do give it a thumbs up if you like it, of course, and share, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye. That's great.
Oh my
Do you want to
gosh.
see that?